But sorry wasn't enough anymore. Because the damage was spreading. Quietly. Socially. Digitally. Like ink bleeding through water. That night, Ethan finally came back to the house. Not to stay. To collect more things. I heard the garage door around 9:30 p.m. And my entire body locked up instantly. Fear. Actual fear. I stood frozen in the kitchen while his footsteps echoed downstairs. Then he appeared in the doorway. Calm as ever. That calmness started terrifying me. He looked at me like we were discussing taxes instead of the destruction of our marriage. You should be sleeping. That sentence nearly made me snap. You ruined my life. He sighed softly. Ava. No. Don't Ava me. I don't want another fight. I laughed bitterly. You had another girlfriend for almost a year. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. There it is again. What? That line. Like this somehow accidentally happened to you. He rubbed his jaw slowly. And suddenly I noticed something horrifying. He looked relieved. Not guilty. Relieved. Like he no longer had to pretend. You know what the worst part is? I whispered. He stayed silent. I don't even recognize you anymore. Something flickered in his expression then. Not sadness. Annoyance. Like my emotions were becoming inconvenient again. You're making this harder than it needs to be. Harder. Than it needs to be. I actually felt dizzy hearing that. You destroyed our marriage. Our marriage was already broken. No, I snapped. You broke it. His eyes hardened instantly. And for the first time, I saw something cold underneath his personality. Something deeply detached. You weren't easy to live with either. That hit me like a slap. Because even now, even after everything, he still needed me to carry part of the blame. Manipulators cannot survive being the villain completely. They always need shared guilt. Always. I begged you to talk to me, I whispered. You pushed constantly. I was trying to save us. You were suffocating me. I physically recoiled. Because suddenly I remembered every moment he pulled away emotionally. And how desperately I chased him afterward. Oh my God. He trained me. Like conditioning an animal. Withdrawal. Affection. Distance. Warmth. Punishment. Reward. Over and over until I became addicted to earning his love again. I started crying instantly. Not soft crying. Broken crying. And Ethan just stood there watching me. Expressionless. That's when I realized something terrifying. He wasn't heartbroken anymore. He'd already grieved this marriage months ago. Alone. While sleeping beside me. Then came the first public humiliation that truly destroyed me. 2 days later, I went grocery shopping for the first time since everything happened. I know that sounds small. But heartbreak turns normal tasks into war zones. The store felt too bright. Too loud. Too normal. I kept expecting someone to point at me. There goes the wife he cheated on. I was halfway through produce when I heard someone say my name. I turned. And froze. Madison. Standing 20 feet away beside another woman. Beautiful. Perfect. Relaxed. Like she hadn't detonated my entire life. For 1 second neither of us moved. Then she smiled awkwardly. Awkwardly. As if we were coworkers bumping into each other after an uncomfortable meeting. Ava. My chest started pounding instantly. The other woman looked mortified. Madison stepped closer carefully. I'm really sorry. I almost laughed in her face. Sorry. Sorry? She slept with my husband for almost a year. Publicly humiliated me online. And now she wanted emotional closure in aisle 7 beside frozen pizza. Don't, I whispered. I know this is painful. Painful. That word enraged me instantly. This painful for you? Her expression shifted slightly. I didn't mean. You knew he was married. We were in love. I physically flinched hearing that. Love. They always call it love. Never selfishness. Never betrayal. Love. And then she said the sentence that shattered me completely. He said you two were basically over. My stomach dropped. What? He told me the marriage had been dead for years. Years. I stared at her in horror. Because suddenly I realized Ethan wasn't just lying to me. He was lying to her too. Creating different realities for different women. Different versions of himself. Different stories. I suddenly felt sick. Like I didn't actually know who my husband was at all. Then Madison quietly added. He said you refused to let go. That hurt worse than everything else. Because it explained the narrative. The unstable wife. The emotionally dependent wife. The controlling wife. He'd been preparing everyone to see me as the obstacle. Not the victim. And before I could stop myself, I broke. Right there in public. Tears exploded out of nowhere. Humiliating. Uncontrollable. Madison looked panicked instantly. Ava. Stay away from me. Customers started staring. I could feel it. Eyes everywhere. Judgment everywhere. And suddenly I couldn't breathe. I abandoned the cart and ran out of the store crying so hard I almost crashed into the automatic doors. I sat in my car hyperventilating for nearly 20 minutes. Because now even strangers had seen me fall apart. And somehow, that's exactly what Ethan wanted. At first it was subtle. Anonymous comments. Fake sympathy. Then worse. Messages like, no wonder he cheated. You seem exhausting. Maybe work on yourself. I stared at those comments in horror. Because they sounded exactly like Ethan. The same language. The same emotional framing. And suddenly paranoia started poisoning everything. Was he behind this? Were his friends? Madison? I couldn't tell anymore. Every notification made my chest tighten. Every vibration triggered panic. Then someone sent me screenshots from a private Facebook group. Women discussing me. My marriage. My breakdown. One comment said. She looks emotionally unstable honestly. Emotionally unstable. There it was again. Repeated. 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 Like someone intentionally planting the idea everywhere. I stopped sleeping after that. Completely. My brain wouldn't shut off. I replayed conversations constantly. Searching for clues. Moments I missed. Manipulations I normalized. And the scariest realization? Ethan rarely yelled. Rarely exploded. Rarely lost control. Because calm people are believable. That's what terrifies me now. The calm ones. The controlled ones. The people who make you look crazy simply by staying emotionally composed while destroying you privately. Then my mother called. And somehow, that hurt more than the online attacks. Ava, she said carefully, I talked to Ethan. Instant nausea. You what? He sounded devastated. I couldn't even speak. Devastated. He sounded devastated. He said things became very toxic between you two. I felt my entire body go cold. He cheated on me. I know, honey, but relationships are complicated. Complicated. I wanted to scream. He's telling people I'm unstable. Well, you have been emotional lately. That sentence shattered something inside me permanently. Because suddenly I understood how effective Ethan's manipulation really was. Even now. Even after the affair. People still found him believable. Because he never looked emotional. I did. And society trusts calm men over crying women every single time. I hung up on my mother and threw my phone across the room. Then collapsed onto the floor sobbing. Not because of Ethan anymore. Because I realized I was losing control of my own story. 3 days later, I found the hidden clue that changed everything. I was searching through old files looking for tax documents when I found a folder buried in Ethan's desk drawer. Inside were printed screenshots. My texts. Private texts. Highlighted. Organized. Labeled with sticky notes. I stopped breathing instantly. One note read. Example of emotional volatility. Another. Manipulative language. My hand started shaking violently. He'd been collecting evidence. Documenting me. Curating moments. Out of context. Building a case. And suddenly every fight replayed differently in my head. Every time he provoked me. Every time he stayed eerily calm while I cried. Oh my God. Oh my God. He wanted reactions. He needed reactions. Because emotional people look irrational beside calm manipulators. I felt physically sick. Then I found the final page. A consultation receipt. Family attorney. Dated 8 months earlier. 8 months. Before I even knew Madison existed. I sank slowly onto the floor staring at the paper while my whole body trembled. This wasn't chaos. Not to him. This was choreography. Every emotional collapse I had. Every breakdown. Every desperate attempt to save the marriage. He had probably expected it. Planned for it. Maybe even needed it. And suddenly a horrifying thought entered my mind. What if the affair itself wasn't the worst thing? What if the worst thing was how carefully he engineered my emotional destruction afterward? My phone buzzed suddenly. Unknown number again. I answered with trembling hands. Silence. Then breathing. Slow breathing. Finally a voice whispered. Check your Instagram. Click. I opened the app instantly. And froze. Someone had uploaded a video of me crying outside the grocery store. The caption read. When the crazy wife finally gets exposed. My entire body went numb. Views climbing. Comments exploding. People laughing. Mocking. Analyzing me like entertainment. And buried underneath the comments, I saw a profile I recognized instantly. Ethan's coworker. He'd liked the video. That's when the panic became something darker. Because this no longer felt like betrayal. It felt coordinated. Calculated. Cruel in a way that went far beyond cheating. I stared at the screen while my pulse thundered in my ears. And for the first time since all this started, I stopped wondering whether Ethan still loved me. A much more terrifying question replaced it. Who the hell had I actually married? Because suddenly, everything felt wrong. The marriage. The affair. The manipulation. The calmness. The planning. The lies. All of it. And deep down, a horrible realization started forming. Something is seriously wrong. The moment I realized my husband might have been studying me. Everything changed. Not cheating on me. Studying me. There's a difference. Cheating is chaos. This felt organized. Cold. Intentional. I sat on the bedroom floor surrounded by printed screenshots of my own text messages while my brain replayed the last 8 years differently. Like a horror movie revealing hidden scenes after the twist. Suddenly every memory felt contaminated. Every fight. Every apology. Every emotional breakdown. What if none of it happened naturally? What if Ethan had been shaping my reactions the entire time? My stomach twisted so violently I ran to the bathroom and threw up. Because once that thought enters your head, you can't remove it. I stopped trusting my own memories after that. That's the part nobody warns you about. Not the heartbreak. Not the betrayal. The memory corruption. You start mentally revisiting moments that once felt normal. And suddenly they look terrifying. Like the panic attacks. I used to think they started because I was emotionally overwhelmed. Now? I'm not so sure. Because Ethan always knew exactly how to trigger them. Exactly. Too exactly. And once I noticed the pattern, I couldn't stop seeing it. 3 years earlier. That memory came back first. We were driving home from a dinner party. I remember because it was snowing heavily. I'd had wine. Music was low. Everything should have felt peaceful. Instead, Ethan randomly asked, "Do you think you're emotionally stable?" I laughed at first. What kind of question is that? I'm serious. I looked over at him. His face stayed calm. Too calm. I mean, he continued, sometimes your emotions get really intense. That familiar knot formed instantly in my chest. What do you mean? You spiral sometimes. Spiral. There was that word again. Even back then. I remember feeling defensive immediately. I don't spiral. You're doing it now. My stomach dropped. Because suddenly I felt emotional, simply trying to defend myself. That's how he did it. He framed emotional reactions as evidence. Every time. And once someone starts defending their sanity, they automatically look unstable. I see that now. God, I see it so clearly now. But at the time? I apologized. Again. Always apologizing. Always trying to become softer. Calmer. Less emotional. Less difficult. Smaller. Until eventually I barely recognized myself. The hidden screenshots kept haunting me. I couldn't stop reading them. Some were years old. Years. One screenshot showed a text I sent after Ethan ignored me during our anniversary dinner. The highlighted sentence read,